Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we're bringing news about how France is continuing their search for terrorists, the Syrian refugee crisis, a special notice from the Kern County Sheriff about potential threats, today's gas prices, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyo Kern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Well, France's push to get the terrorists responsible for last weekend's attacks continues. The French Interior Minister said 2 people died in early morning police raids today targeting the suspected mastermind behind the Paris attacks. Cell phone records and surveillance gathered since Friday's attack led police to believe that Aboud, the alleged mastermind, may have been in an apartment in St. Denis, Paris. Prosecutor François Molinis said today Aboud was not there. French President François Hollande said the aim of the raids overnight were to neutralize terrorist links to the attacks on Friday. The operation started with shootings at 4:30 a.m., officials said. It first resulted in the arrest of 3 people inside an apartment. At that point, a woman triggered a suicide vest. Another person died from a projectile and a grenade. Officials said there were others arrested as well as the person who rented the apartment and a friend. The police are not identifying any of those arrested. 7 arrests were made in the course of the raids in St. Denis, and 5 police officers were lightly wounded during the raids, according to French National Police, and a police dog was killed. Searches are still underway, and a heavy police presence remains in place, but a French government spokesman confirms that the raids are now over. In the latest over the war of letting the Syrian refugees into the U.S. between the Obama administration and Congress, has Obama lashing out at Republicans. President Barack Obama is accusing Republicans who oppose allowing Syrian refugees into the U.S. of being scared of widows and orphans. He says the political posturing needs to stop. Obama is addressing calls from GOP leaders for an immediate, temporary closure of America's borders to Syrian refugees. He said those Republicans think they're so tough. Now they're scared of 3-year-old orphans. That doesn't seem so tough to me, Obama said. And was referring to New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's assertion that not even children refugees should be allowed into the United States. Republican Senator Rand Paul and a congressman are expected to introduce legislation to stop the president from bringing in the refugees. Even Democratic Senators Feinstein and Schumer are questioning the wisdom of bringing these refugees in. So it's not just the Republicans expressing opposition. CBS is reporting that congressional Republicans are actively working to try and halt the administration's plan to take in more Syrian refugees following the Paris terrorist attacks. Congressman Kevin McCarthy has been set as the leader of a new task force. A task force of GOP chairmen that has been assembled in the House is figuring out how they can legislatively suspend the plan. The House could vote on a bill as early as Thursday. An aide to House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy said, "More than half of the United States governors have vowed to refuse entry to Syrian refugees, and not all of those governors are Republican. Our task force is considering legislation while we speak. We're meeting every day, and we will bring legislation forward," Speaker Paul Ryan told reporters on Tuesday. After authorities revealed that a Syrian passport was found close to the body of one of the 8 terrorists killed during Friday's attacks, Ryan said a pause was necessary in the administration's current plan to take in at least 10,000 more Syrian refugees over the next year. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also said he believes there should be a pause or a moratorium in the plan. Congressional aides say Congress has the power to halt it. It could, however, be a complicated process because several different government agencies and even nonprofit organizations are involved in the refugee resettlement process. Congress has the power over both policy and funding, a GOP aide told CBS News. It would require legislation to change existing refugee policy or to restrict the use of funds. A senior Obama administration official told reporters Tuesday that the refugee resettlement program has received bipartisan support in the past, as well as good funding levels. Bringing more refugees, though, is absolutely dependent on having the resources to run the program. The program is absolutely dependent on funding from Congress, and as we grow it, we will require more assistance from Congress. The task force includes the chairman of the Intelligence, Armed Services, Homeland Security, Judiciary, Foreign Affairs, and Appropriations Committees. A few Republicans in the House introduced legislation Tuesday that would address the administration's refugee plan. State Senate Republican leader Gene Fuller released the following statement regarding the resettlement of Syrian refugees in the United States and California. Following the recent terrorist attacks in Paris, Americans have legitimate concerns about their personal safety after watching Islamic terrorists slaughter at least 129 innocent people in Paris. The burden is on President Obama to demonstrate that the only refugees allowed on our shores are those seeking asylum from political violence and not those who plan to do us harm, said Senator Fuller. Next, we get this report from the Kern County Sheriff's Department. On Friday, November 13, 2015, multiple coordinated terrorist attacks struck the city of Paris in France. The attacks included several shootings, explosions, and a hostage situation at a concert hall. More than 100 civilians were killed as a result of the attacks. In light of these attacks, the Kern County Sheriff's Office would like to underscore the importance of continued vigilance from the community in remaining alert and reporting any unusual or suspicious activity to local law enforcement. At this time, there is no known specific or credible threat against the United States associated with these recent attacks. However, there is the possibility that similar attacks could occur in the United States. If You See Something, Say Something is a national campaign licensed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that raises public awareness of the indicators of terrorism and terrorism-related crime. The campaign also stresses the importance of reporting suspicious activity to state and local law enforcement agencies and rely on the public to act as a second set of eyes and ears. And the public plays a critical role in keeping our communities safe. Suspicious activity is any observed behavior that could indicate terrorism or terrorism-related crime and includes, but is not limited to, unusual items or situations, a vehicle parked in an odd location, a package or luggage left unattended, a window or door open that is usually closed, or any other out of the ordinary situation. Eliciting information. A person questions individuals at levels beyond normal curiosity about a building's purpose, operations, security procedures, and or number of personnel or shift change information. Observation and surveillance. A person pays unusual attention to a facility or building beyond normal or casual interest. This can include extended loitering, particularly in concealed areas, repeated or prolonged observation with binoculars or video cameras, taking pictures, notes or measurements, counting paces, and sketching floor plans. Some of these activities may be innocent, but it is up to law enforcement to investigate and determine whether the behavior warrants a more thorough look. Only reports that document behavior that is reasonably indicative of criminal activity will be reported to federal authorities. To report suspicious activity, contact your local law enforcement agency. Be prepared to describe specifically what was observed, including who and what you saw, with a detailed description of the suspect and vehicles when you observed the activity, where it occurred, why you believe it is suspicious. Remember, factors such as race, ethnicity, and religious affiliations are not suspicious. Citizens should only report suspicious behavior and activity. To report suspicious activity to the Kern County Sheriff's Office, call 661-861-3110. If there is an emergency, dial 911. And I would add the same thing for Ridgecrest Police Department. Call the Ridgecrest Police Department at 760-499-5100. Now stay with us. After the break, news about the GSA coming to the Indian Wells Valley. Thanks for staying with us. In news from Kern County, yesterday Kern County supervisors met to decide whether to submit a letter of intent to form a groundwater sustainability agency for the Indian Wells Valley. Dennis Spear and Don Zadiba appeared and encouraged approval of the letter of intent and said the City and Water District plans on being part of this new agency. In a surprise move, pistachio farmer Paul Nugent and Rod Stiefvater, Mojave Pistachios, have formed a water company with its mission to provide water for their ranches here in the valley. This is a move that could allow them to be a voting member of the new GSA. The state law says that all government agencies and water districts that control land or water use are entitled to be part of the agency. It was also announced that there is going to be a private meeting of the major players tomorrow to discuss the new GSA. There was some question as to whether the meeting was legal, and County Council said it was, as this new group is not officially formed and not subject to the Brown Act. So legally, they can have a private meeting. However, about a month ago, there was an informational meeting here to educate the public about the process. But a main point declared by the speakers was that transparency was important and would be done. I'm not sure how having a private meeting of the major players to this new GSA falls into being transparent. In news from Washington, we hear this story. The stuff of science fiction is about to be U.S. law after Congress approved the Space Act on Monday. Our Congressman Kevin McCarthy introduced this bill last May. In a statement from him, he says this act set the stage for East Kern County to continue to be a major player in the conquering of space by private industry. With potentially trillions of dollars at stake, futurists said the bill is a bold statement of American leadership, keeping the burgeoning private spaceflight industry free of heavy government regulation and extending what's been dubbed the learning period of freewheeling experimentation that companies have relied on to test their plans without fear of crippling lawsuits. The legislation also extends the U.S. government commitment to the International Space Station and clears the way for government astronauts to fly on private spacecraft, giving NASA a future alternative to hitching a ride on rushing rockets at $70 million a flight. This bill encourages the private sector to launch rockets, take risks, and shoot for the stars, said Representative Lamar Smith. One of the major provisions of the bill is paving the way for private companies to own any natural resources they manage to mine from asteroids. The bill passed the House on a voice vote after clearing the Senate last week on a unanimous vote. It now goes to President Obama, who has suggested tweaks earlier in the process but has not threatened a veto of the bipartisan bill. A United States citizen engaged in commercial recovery of an asteroid resource or a space resource under this chapter shall be entitled to any asteroid resource or space resource obtained, including to possess, own, transport, use, and sell the asteroid resource or space resource obtained in accordance with applicable law, including the international obligation of the United States. Some analysts said that contradicts the Outer Space Treaty, which the U.S. ratified in 1967, and which declares no country can appropriate part of outer space. But others say that only prevents governments from owning outer space, and companies willing to risk their fortunes on this endeavor should be able to profit from it. Because if private industry profits from this very expensive endeavor, the country will benefit in the long run. The bill now goes to President Obama for signature. And remember, the City Council will meet this evening for their regular meeting. The main agenda item for this particular meeting will be that the Council will hold a discussion of the 2015 updated Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance. This is a new conservation ordinance that the Council has until December to either pass their own ordinance or the state's ordinance becomes effective and controls of the city. Local agencies have until December 1st, 2015 to adopt the model ordinance or to adopt a local ordinance which must be at least as effective in conserving water. After the news, you still have time to make it down there for this important issue. As an update on KZGN Talking Points editorial I did yesterday on this news segment, it has drawn considerable discussion by many people on the Indian Wells Valley discussion group on Facebook. The editorial was titled, "Has President Obama Lost Touch with Reality?" It dealt with my opinion that President Obama is not listening to the facts, the potential danger, and what the people want concerning this plan to follow Syrian refugees into the United States. Even Democratic Senators Feinstein and Schumer are voicing concerns about this plan. So it's not just Republicans against the plan. Anyway, if you'd like to get involved with the discussion, go to Facebook and just search for Indian Wells Valley Discussion Group or the KZGN News Discussion Group. It's fun and interesting to read other people's views on the issues. Join in on the discussion. Now in KZGN's continuous effort to provide news and information you asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Well, since my report on Monday, gas prices have dropped a little bit more. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.81 to $3.19. Lancaster is going from $2.73 to $2.99. The LA Valley area is going $2.65 to $2.85. And the Bishop area $2.88 to $3.27. We have 4 stations coming in at the $2.81 figure, so we have now seen a slight movement again. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us for weather and sports after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Lane for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center is forecasting a risk of severe thunderstorms Wednesday afternoon and evening across parts of the southeast, mainly across Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. The main threats will be isolated straight-line winds, along with the possibility of a tornado or two. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas is 71, Georgia at 70, Arkansas at 61, Northern Texas at 63, Arizona at 61, and LA at 68. And for us locally, tonight, clear with a low around 40, south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny with a high near 69, west-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 42, northeast wind 5 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 72, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, mostly clear with a low around 44, east wind 5 to 10 miles per hour with gusts as high as 15. Saturday, sunny with a high near 71, north wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 41, east wind 5 miles per hour. And Sunday, sunny with a high near 70, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now here's Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Wednesday afternoon to everyone. Let's start with Burroughs High School football. We've mentioned it all week, but it's worth it. It's a quarterfinal football game. First time we've been in the quarterfinals in 4 years. Now, Burroughs will play at La Quinta. Both teams share a 5-6 record. Both teams finished third in their conference. Both teams ended up 3 wins and 2 losses. And both teams played a very good non-conference schedule. And I would say La Quinta played a very good non-conference schedule. Burroughs also played what I would consider a very competitive non-conference schedule. So what does this all add up to? It adds up to a pretty even-steven game on paper for Friday night. That game over in La Quinta. Now, deja vu, we opened up against La Quinta in the first round 5 years ago, almost to the very night that we're playing this game on Friday night at La Quinta, and Burroughs led most of that game and lost at the very end. So let's hope they're maybe a little bit different ending tonight at La Quinta. But these teams, these schools, somewhat familiar with each other. La Quinta out of that Desert Valleys League, where Palm Desert and Palm Springs also are, and it was Palm Springs, a team that Burroughs beat back in 2005 to win the CIF championship at Palm Springs. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Saracosto volleyball. Season has ended now. The team won a couple league games this year. They ended their season with a very good win over Victor Valley College last week. Victor Valley College was a second-place team and a playoff team, so that was a very good way for Coach Kim Young to end her season. They had a couple sophomores on the team that were honored, and also they will have a spring league they'll participate in. Also starting is the volleyball clubs that are in town. We have a couple of them, and the Elite is the one that has the older kids, but also the Starlings have the younger kids. So if you're interested in those are listed in the Chamber of Commerce, and you can get your daughter in one of those clubs. Okay, let's talk about the Turkey Trot, and that's coming up in just a few weeks. Anthony Barnes, the athletic director, former cross-country coach at the high school and the current cross-country coach over at Murray, runs this, and it's the 26th, which is Thanksgiving Day. It's in the morning, registration at 7:30. The actual event starts at 8:30. $5 donation fee, and that's just a donation suggested, and all kinds of great raffle prizes, and that's given out about 9:45. And he wants to thank Ridgecrest Cinemas, Casa Corona, Casey Steaks and Barbecue, Denny's, Corny's, Pony Espresso, and Burroughs High School for donations that they got along with Walmart. It's usually a very, very well-attended event. It's a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, contact Anthony Barnes over at Murray Middle School. He can be reached at 499-1820. All right, Major League Baseball. They had the selections for Manager of the Year yesterday, and the press took Jeff Bannister for the American League. He was a Texas Rangers coach. Rangers started off not very good, but played great towards the middle of the season, then held on at the end. He's a first-year manager, is Jeff Bannister. And Joe Madden got the award for the National League. Joe Madden managed the Cubs to their first divisional title since, it's been about since 2007. And the first time that they nearly got in to the NLCS playoffs in longer than that. But Joe Madden, former Tampa Bay coach, came in, did a great job, and he is now the second manager only ever to be named the Manager of the Year in both the American and the National League. Quick college football note, UCLA and Utah, huge game on Saturday afternoon. USC at Oregon, big game also. Really, it's do or die as far as a league championship goes. The loser is going to be out, and really the winners of those games will get a much better bowl game than the losers will, and that's a lot of money. That's what the difference is when you ask about what bowl game is really better than the other. Matter of money, and colleges really, need the extra money they get to help their programs. All right, there's your sports for this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. Office of KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.